Mark this day in your calendar, folks, the 10th of September. Yes, we're going to have another presidential debate, and I cannot wait. Trump versus Harris. How exciting is that going to be? Now, it's going to be the first big presidential debate between the two. It's going to be hosted by ABC News. And of course, these debates are so important. Remember, the debate that Biden did is arguably the thing that brought him down, because it allowed the world to see that, he just really wasn't up to the job. Now, ABC has confirmed that this is happening on X after Trump said on Thursday that he would be open to debating his Democratic rival many times before the November election. But you do get the feeling that Donald Trump is now feeling the pressure against a more energized Democratic campaign, because the campaign for the Democrats was really quite flailing, just particularly after that debate with Joe Biden. But let's listen to Donald Trump talking about how the fact that he can thinks he can draw in very big crowds as big, if not bigger, than Martin Luther King. Well, what can we expect from the debate, and also how will both sides kind of try to frame their opponent? What sort of tactics will they be thinking about? Well, I'm joined by two excellent guests. Hal Lambert, who is a Republican who served on the inaugural committee for Donald Trump. Hal, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And welcome to the show, Susan Platt, former Chief of Staff to President Biden. Susan, welcome.
Thank you very much.
So let's just begin with, how much things have changed since that last TV debate. We thought that Joe Biden would be the person taking on Donald Trump. It's now Kamala Harris. Let's just start. What do we think about her choice of running partner, Tim Walz? Susan, I'll start with you.
Oh, I think he's just great. He is so down to earth. He speaks everybody's language. He doesn't talk in hyperbole or lies. And he's just someone that I think is so relatable and is so impressive in his experience and what he has done in his life and what he cares about. I think he was just a great addition to complement Kamala Harris and her experience.
And Susan, is there a worry though? I've heard a couple of people. He has got a lot of people who clearly have a great amount of admiration for him. Obviously he's got his critics as well on the other side, of course.
Sure.
But I have had some people say, because he is, an older gentleman, would it not have been better to pick somebody who is younger, so you could sort of put that against Donald Trump? What do you think about that argument?
Well, I would think I would send it back to people who watched the 93 minutes down the rabbit hole yesterday of Donald Trump and his press conference. I think that Tim Walz is a good contrast for Kamala and a good contrast with J.D. Vance.
Okay, what do you think, Hal, about the choice?
We're very happy on the Trump side, I tell you that.
Why?
Because he's a far left nut, and he wants to have transgender surgeries for little children. He's putting tampons in boys'
I don't know if he
bathrooms.
quite wants to have transgender surgeries for little
He
children.
signed it, allowing it. So look, he's a far left guy. It's coming out now. You said critics on the other side. He's got critics in his own unit when he was in the National Reserve, saying that he didn't go off to get deployed. He jumped ship right before deployment. He's a real problem for them. But I will say this in fairness, people do not vote based on the vice president. So Kamala is bad at the top of the ticket, and that'll be the focus.
And Tim, Hal, what do you feel about the fact that, it is interesting that the Democrats have gone from being really in the depths of despair after that debate with Joe Biden, and everybody was like, what is going on here? This guy's just not up to it. The party was really in the doldrums. We had donors very worried. Everybody was very worried. And it feels like just in a few short weeks, things have really changed. The Democrats have got a lot of wind and energy, and wind in their sails, energy back in the campaign, that money is flowing in. Are you worried that there's a new energized Democratic campaign?
No, absolutely not. That's all a facade created by the media. Literally before she was picked, she was the quote drag on the ticket that was going to take things down. They tried to hide the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incapacitated the past couple of years. They got caught on it, and they had to rush out and do an emergency switch here at the end. She is can't even hold a press conference. She'll be a disaster in the debates. And by the way, there should be a debate prior to the September 10th one. Trump has demanded 3 debates, with the first one being on Fox. So she's trying to hide from anything but the one on ABC. We'll see if she can get away with it or not. But she can't handle
Okay.
what yesterday, which was a press conference open to whoever wants to ask a question. She won't be able to do it, and still hasn't done it.
Well, Susan, I think there's plenty that you'd like to come back on on that.
Where do I start? I can't even remember all the different distortions that were out there. First of all, they're using the same old playbook and attacks that they always have in the past, but this time they're tired and just wrong for the moment. You talk about unfocused or mentally incapacitated. Anybody who watched Donald Trump yesterday for those 93 minutes saw someone who really is unfocused, distorted, and delusional. And I don't know how you can kind of fake that when you get on there. The contrasts in this election are very stark. Trump was about fear, gloom and doom, and identity politics. Kamala Harris is about hope, joy, and uplifting message. It's the grumpy old man versus the young, hopeful, powerful woman. It's a moment, and it's hard to capture it in a word. And I got to tell you, I haven't stopped smiling this much. Have been smiling this much in a long time. It's a long way to go, and anything could change, and we have to work hard. But it feels good.
And look, Hal, on Susan's point, I mean, when you looked at that press conference last night, it wasn't exactly a very slick performance. I mean, it was very long. It was very rambling. It didn't make, I mean, when you saw Donald Trump against Joe Biden at that debate, Joe Biden made Donald Trump look quite competent, made him look quite compos mentis, made him look quite youthful and quite, cognizant. I have to say, looking at that press conference last night, and I was watching a lot of American commentators, people are like, what is going on here? What is this kind of mad ramble?
Of course they're going to say that. I mean, Donald Trump's the same Donald Trump he was when he won in 2016. So you guys can talk about rambling and all of that. Look, the average American is behind Donald Trump, and they're not going to be able to change that. Inflation has crushed people. Prices are out of control. Kamala's talking about what she's going to do in the first days in office. She's in office now. I mean, she's talking about all these things she's going to do.
Yeah,
Well,
but
she's there.
as you just said, the VP's not a the VP's not a big
Okay.
player. You even said that yourself, Hal. It's all about the president.
People don't vote based on the VP. I didn't say the VP can't do things. The one thing she was put in charge of, which was the border, was a complete disaster and has been. And yet now she's trying to claim, oh, she wasn't really ever in charge of the border. Well, who was in charge of the border?
Okay, well let's pick that up with Susan. That is an argument that I have heard a lot, Susan. That was her job, and the issue about migration is an issue that really does concern a lot of Americans. And she didn't go to the border for a long time. How's she going to deal with that?
Well, first of all, she wasn't the border czar, as
That,
Republicans like to say it. And immigration has gone down under
oh,
Joe Biden than under Donald Trump. But let's just say this. Let me just say this one point.
go with, go with
Donald
that.
Trump and his campaign are starting to smell like 3-day-old fish. It's time to throw them out. And if you just look at the new polls this morning, Kamala Harris is up 6 points from Donald Trump. People are starting to feel that. They're starting to realize it's old versus new. It's gloom versus doom. And anybody who sits there and maligns America and its people as much as Donald Trump does not deserve to be president of the United States.
And look, Hal, in terms of slagging off the American people, the VP pick for Trump, JD Vance, has really ruffled a lot of feathers, particularly with women who, and I have to say this as a childless woman. I actually don't have a cat because I'm allergic to cats, so I'm not a childless cat lady. So you can rest assured on that. But how do you think that appointment is going down? Because it does feel like women are important voters in America. Do you think Trump's going to sort of make JD Vance kind of rein it in a bit?
I think JD Vance has done a great job. That quote you're talking about was a sarcastic quote 3 years ago. We haven't seen any quotes from Kamala Harris. We haven't seen any quotes from Waltz. I mean, look at the crazy stuff.
But let's focus on JD Vance, because you've gone in studs up, and that fair play to you on the. But let's just talk about JD Vance. Those comments, whether they're said now or whether they were said 3 years ago, they have really alienated a lot of women, and women are important voters in America.
Really? How do you know that that's really alienated a lot of American women? Have you been talking to them? I mean, give me a break. The polling numbers that you're talking about, I mean, there were two polls that came out yesterday. Rasmussen and CNBC both have Trump leading nationally. So this whole thing about polls and JD Vance, like I said, JD Vance is a great guy. I've known him for at least 5 years. He is going to be a strong vice president. He's going to do well in the debates. He's going to do well on the campaign trail. He already is. And Kamala Harris won't even do a press interview. So this is going to be decided at the top of the ticket anyway. But yes, I think JD Vance was an excellent choice.
And Susan, we've got the Democratic convention next week. What do you think the big message is going to be from Kamala Harris at that?
Well, first, I do have to say the latest poll that came out this morning, the Marist poll, the national poll, had Kamala Harris at 53%, up 6 points from Donald Trump. So that's the latest poll. I think that the convention, and I cannot wait to go, and I'm taking my granddaughter, because you talk about women who weren't necessarily excited or engaged. She's calling me up. And everyone's excited about, oh my gosh, you talk about the VP pick. Tim Walz and his wife, Gwen, tried for years via IVF for a child. What J.D. Vance and the Republicans are going to do are take away those opportunities.
Nonsense.
And that's not about family.
That's nonsense.
Okay. Susan, we're just trying to. What's going to be the big message coming out of the convention next week? Just because we're running out of time.
Hope, change, uplifting. We all love America, and let's take it back. We're not going back.
And how?
You're going to steal the Obama. You're going to steal the Obama slogan. Hope and change. There we go. That's going forward.
It worked before. It'll work again.